A large group showed up at the council meeting to address city leaders. Newport was there at the meeting, and he has the latest. Well,
that's right, Dave and Regina. The union president spoke in front of the Newport News City Council tonight, representing all of the firefighters who packed the council chambers here tonight. He laid out exactly what they were all concerned about. A few of the council members did address them once he was done speaking. However, the city manager and the mayor did not. Side by side, Newport News firefighters stood in solidarity. Their union president, Donnie Lewis, sternly addressing city council.
Firemen has removed officers from the overtime list, which has created a need for more firefighters to work overtime in a time where we are over 30 to 40 firefighters short. As a result of the policy change, the department has had to mandate firefighters to work mornings that the firefighters were scheduled to get off.
Their frustration stems from a mandatory overtime policy put in place by interim fire chief Scott Liebold.
What we do not understand is the position the department has taken, not letting officers ride in the officer's seat when we promote lieutenants to that position. That position requires a great deal of training to get promoted to it. And we see no benefit in not allowing our lieutenants to work overtime in them seats.
Chief Liebold says this comes down to the overtime budget, which, as of now, they've far exceeded.
We were budgeted $950,000 for FY18.
Have you guys met that yet or gone over?
We have exceeded that by a little over $2 million.
President Lewis says he met with the city manager Monday, but a resolution was not worked out. The city manager did not address firefighters at Tuesday's meeting, but some council members spoke up, optimistic the city can help the firefighters. Chief Liebold included, but it'll take time.
We're looking at a number of things. Unfortunately, there's no quick, easy fix. If it were, it would have been fixed already. It takes about a year to hire and train a new firefighter.
And I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, and the last I spoke to the union president after the meeting, he didn't mention whether they had a future meeting set up with the city manager yet, but as soon as we find that out, we'll update you right here on 13 News Now. Live in Newport News, Newport, 13 News Now.